How many investors, because I've talked to a lot of investors, and a lot of them I've talked to when I'm asking about their exit, very few, I should say, very few have had this kind of approach where it's just rolling a part of it over and taking some, chips off the table. Most of them are like, I'm just going to cash everything out and then move on to my next, founding company or whatever. How many would you say actually do this roll up, not roll up strategy, excuse me, a rollover strategy, would you say? I mean, out of the people you've talked
So a
to.
small
Just curious.
percentage of founder-led companies, but when founders sell to private equity and they're afforded that opportunity and they're not walking out the back door, they're actually staying, then I'd say it's a high percentage of those that stay. Frankly, as a PE buyer, when I bought those 23, HVAC companies, I wouldn't buy them unless they became rollover investors. It was forced, that I wanted them to be rollover investors because I wasn't buying a long-term contracted revenue stream. What I'm really buying is the relationships they had developed with customers over an extended period of time. The only reason I could, or only way I could keep them from taking their wheelbarrow full of gold and running away was to put handcuffs on them. And so I make them roll over enough to where it's interesting, and that's usually 10 to 30%. And I force them to become a shareholder. And now you can't fully check out and leave. I need you around and engaged because there's still meaningful money for you to make. And so usually the first time an entrepreneur does this, they are, I'll call it an unwilling bride, and it's like, okay, I'll roll over some. I just hope I get the money back, but once they get the second bite of the apple and they're like, oh, wow, hey, this is cool. This is fun. I
The
didn't
second bite is
realize.
more delicious than the first bite, right?
Yeah. I didn't realize that you could actually do this. And it's like once entrepreneurs get a taste of that, then it's like, okay. And then you got people like me writing books trying to educate them so that it's not a state secret, anymore. This is what happens in the world of middle market, call it private equity backed CEOs is we're getting paydays every time someone's exiting. We're rolling over and our subsequent paydays get bigger. And it's like, and founders can do this too. And so when they sell to institutional capital, they become a rollover investor, get the first bite, go 5 years, get a second bite, and it's something that you can do multiple times. And it's like, hey, you already hit one home run. Don't worry about going back and trying to think of what's next. How many entrepreneurs go to what's next, and it doesn't quite, achieve that same level of success they had the first time. And maybe they do, but I'd say, why even risk it? You were successful once. Why leave? Keep going. Just keep going with somebody else's money and checkbook.
It's just such a good perspective, and it's interesting. That's why I wanted to ask you that question when I had you on our podcast here, because a lot of the people I've talked to literally just exit and that's it, and they take all their chips off, and very few roll over. And now I'm looking at this strategy. It's like, this is an incredible tactic to be able to, obviously, like you said, the next 13, 20 years, you're still, feeding off that apple, if you will, in regards to your
it's the difference between being wealthy and creating what I'll call generational wealth. And I don't care how big your exit is. If it's 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, you think you've arrived. Imagine getting 2 more bites of the apple with each one being bigger than the first, and then adding all 3 of those bites up. It's like, that's exciting to me. And it can be exciting for all of you too. And if you think about it, think about wealth creation a little bit differently and learn how that game works and learn how to play it. You're playing with the big boys now, and your ability to generate real generational wealth is enhanced.
Adam, man, I really appreciate you being on here. Obviously, we'll have to have you on again because there's a lot of topics and a lot of questions I didn't get to ask, but I want to respect our time together. I just really enjoyed your book. It's great to be able to read a book and then be able to have the author on and then talk about it on our podcast. So I really do appreciate it, and obviously learning from you. Adam, for those that want to reach out to you and learn from what you got going on, and there's a lot of different ways. I know you've got tons of podcasts. I'll put those all in the description, but how else do they reach out to you, my man?
So LinkedIn is probably the one platform I'm on every day, all the time, just off and on, every day. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I do respond. My inbounds is getting up there though. I'm getting to about 1,000 a day. And so I do my best to try to plow through those. My website's adamecoffey.com. I started using my middle initial on there because there are 3 Adam Coffeys in the world that I'm aware of. There's 4. There's me, I'm a business guy. There's one in Australia who is in charge of the Cattlemen's Association. There's another doctor here in Dallas who's named Adam Coffey, and he's a psychologist. And so you've got, it's like there's multiple Adam Coffeys out there. So Adam Coffey, the business guy, is at adamecoffey.com. But LinkedIn is probably my most active platform.
Awesome. And guys, I'll also put his all those links in the description, but also the Private Equity Playbook and Empire Builders and all of his other books down there, so you guys can read those. You can get them on Audible and stuff like that. And like I mentioned, he's been featured in a lot of different other podcasts. Adam, I really appreciate you being on here big time, just unpacking so much valuable information. Guys, that is my guest, the one and only Adam Coffey, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in. Journey with Christian D. Evans podcast.